Let's do it.
What's up?
Hey, Mike.
How we doing, Frank?
Doing well. All right, Mike.
How we doing tonight?
Good. How was your week?
Good.
Right on.
I love the change of scenery today.
Welcome to the new studio.
I love it.
Perspective Shift Studio.
Welcome to Perspective Shift.
Yeah, I'm Frank.
And I am Mike.
They're two guys that have no idea what they're doing.
Here to give you another take on things.
Yeah, that's it.
Yep.
All right. So, what are we gonna discuss in
That's
the
funny you
universe
say
today?
that. I haven't given one thought about that.
Yeah. See, me and Mike, we just show up at this thing, and whatever comes in, we don't really anticipate. We may discuss a couple of things, but let's start on this. We discussed this earlier when we were outside, and talk about the acting aspect of life. What is it,
Okay.
and how it plays in. All right.
Like, as in we ourselves, the costumes.
Yeah, so we mentioned this before. If we come into this world, right, and I look at it as we have a soul contract, however you want to look at it. So I came in, just like an actor will sign a contract, he'll get the script, okay, or she'll get the script and say, hey, I like this, I want to go play this part. So when they sign the contract, now when they come onto the set, they might have an understanding of how the character, where it's going to go, but they still haven't experienced it yet. So it's kind of like we have a soul contract. We came in here. So we actually come down, so the corporeal self of who we are is the actor. But the higher self is more of the director, if you will, or the producer, if you will. Or you could say God's the producer and the higher self is the director. But yet, who's having the experience is the actor. So playing the game of getting lost in that in order to play out this performance. But the saving grace and what we're getting here is, who are we really? And we are the watcher, the director, if you will.
The observer, the seeker,
Yes.
however you want to phrase it.
Yeah. So we can observe it, and as a good director will see if an actor is going off cue or what have you, just cut, redirect, and tell the actor to do that. And the actor, if actor does a really good job, a really good actor will listen to the director, and the better they do, there's less interference of breaking in and cutting. So our job is to understand our higher self as our director. And then if we just listen into it and give it attention, and then we actually flow within it, we'll actually start to have a smoother ride, if you will. There's still going to be ups and downs as part of the acting gig, just like an actor might take a role that's funny, or a role that is very dramatic, a role that's tragic. But the actor themselves know at some point their saving grace is they're just acting. But they have to lose themselves in it to convince the audience.
All right, so how's the best way to phrase when we got somebody who is, having a tough time, going through, some rough family stuff, whatever it may be, that experience as acting to them?
Well, the thing is, it's not for us to actually confront them and say, hey, you're just acting. There's ways to do that. And actually, when you're in this present moment that we're in, observing them, all right? Sometimes the director will just allow the actor to continue going, even though they're acting a little out of sorts, but hold on, maybe they'll find their way into it. So as we're actors as well on the same set as the other actors, so I would say, on my movie perspective, I am the lead actor. You're my co-actor, all right? And then the other people that are in it, they're like everything from other co-actors to just people on the set that are extras, all right? Just peripheral. They don't really have an influence, but you see them. And my job isn't to interfere with their acting. That's the director's job, and their director, they have their own director. My job is to respond off of them, hold my point. So it's almost like we always want to correct bad behavior, right? Like, oh, you shouldn't be acting that way. Well, can you imagine Lex Luthor was always acting appropriate? What would Superman do, right? So Superman's response to Lex Luthor will actually either contain it, he'll learn from it, he'll learn his, like, because what's Superman's true strength? Is it his ability to fly, to, stop a bullet? No, it was restraint and compassion out of that. So that's what really made Superman an idol to look after, right? And again, it's a story form and how we tell it. There's really no right or wrong here. So it isn't my job to tell someone, hey, you're just acting. There might be a point when I could get into a discussion, but they're already inviting me in. It's my job to look at them and say, huh, interesting. How do I respond to this with compassion? What do I see in them that is in me? Maybe there's something I need to learn about myself. Because it is a concept that they're acting crazy. That's a concept they put on them. Maybe it's me that's acting crazy. Who knows,
Well, it depends who's looking
Yeah.
at it.
Like I'll die and go to heaven. Like, Jesus, just tell me, was it Karen or was it me that was acting crazy? I swear, I'll give you $10 if you put me in the same spot. You're like, Karen already gave me 20, so. Yeah, it's like, son of a, yeah.
Love it.
So who knew? And so a lot of times there's like these 3 points you can go after. So, because again, when somebody is in a place of suffering, I feel placing yourself around them can help them. But how do we help them? Well, the moment can only show you that. Sometimes helping people is just being quiet. Like there isn't a book like, okay, if someone does this, what should I do? I'm like, we're not in front of that person at the moment in which they're acting in a way that you deem to be wrong, so I can't give you a play-by-play right now. You have to be on the field at the time when the whistle's blown to actually know what to do, right? But searching kind of what we're doing here and utilizing perspective shift, because if I can shift perspective, I can turn into a different character or a different angle of the character in the moment. And if I listen to the director will actually direct me into what to say to that person or what not to say, to hug, to walk away, or a point of wisdom will come to me to say to them. Or it's just simply, I'm there to learn the wisdom, restraint of, I know better, I'm more evolved than you, so I must come to the rescue and tell you my wisdom.
No, at that point, it's what's coming through you.
Yes, and that's like when we stay in that moment, so a really great actor will stay in the moment and not try to anticipate the other characters in it, because they do, if the character does something outside their anticipation, they get flustered, and they might blame the other actor or director, like, oh, why was it their job to do this? You had no idea. Because you only read your script, not theirs. I'm directing them to be that way. So if you actually just stay centered, stay present, you actually learn a lot. And then that's when we become in the moment. And that's the response we get. Rather than reactive, we become very response. And it's ad-libbed. It's the way to live life. It's not choreographed. It's actually spontaneous.
Let's get deeper with that though. So like, I know that for myself, you hear the word, be present, etc. And for people out there, what we mean by that is we are talking about awareness. Do you agree that's a good way to describe it?
Absolutely.
Because that's a very different type of word to describe, what is going on. So awareness is you becoming aware that the voice in your head, as well as the self-talk, whatever you want to call it, the chatter, that is not you nor your identity. That is going to be at the core of what we're kind of diving into with when we say we're an actor. going through these experiences that are ultimately happening to us, because of how we're looking at life and how we're perceiving day to day. Whether we're living a tragedy or a comedy, it's up to us. And how you get away from the tragedy or away from the comedy, whatever is most preferential to you, is by becoming aware that you are not the emotion and reaction to certain situations. You're the one who is experiencing that. So when you have a voice that kicks into your head next time you hear yourself, or you're in the car and there's a situation, road rage, whatever, catch yourself and recognize, okay, that reaction or that go-to feeling, that wasn't me. That was, I like to call it the programming.
Yeah.
But it's more than that. It's our subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind can only, it just brings up, past experiences. When your body hit that temperature, or when you felt that way, it caused anger. So recognize that anger and understand that's not me. I'm the awareness of that anger, and take the emotion away from that. That is how you're going to step away from the stage and understand that you're playing a role every day. So you can play that role of the underdog. You can play that role of, the dream lifestyle. Whatever you truly are searching for, you can ultimately play that role out.
Yeah, and exactly. So, getting back, it was a great way of putting it. So, and now flipping back to the whole actor and director aspect, the actor realizes they're on a movie set.
Absolutely,
So
that's the awareness.
That's the awareness. So
Absolutely.
they're a actor. But once the director says action, the actor has to find themselves in the actual place and forget they're on a movie set and literally fall into the acting in order to satisfy the experience to its fullest. And all of a sudden, in a moment, they forget they're actually on the studio and they think they're actually in this true experience or real experience, what we call it.
Would you call that flow?
Yes, we call that flow.
Yeah.
So they're one with the scene in which they're playing.
When you get lost in that music, that dance, that hobby of yours, that's flow.
Yeah, whatever it is, yeah. But when they get lost in it, but yet there's a part of them that says, you're on a movie set. So how does that relate to the world we're in? When things get too overwhelming, and why they get overwhelming, we think this is it, this is all there is, and this really isn't. As we start to peel away the onion of life, we realize there is more to this. We are eternal. What do I mean by that? I've used this analogy many times. You're probably getting tired of me saying it, but I'm going to keep repeating it. But I was once 15, and so was Mike. Where is that 15-year-old body? But the entity that was in that body, that's in this body, lives on forever, and that's the witnesser.
The awareness.
The awareness of it, yeah. So as we understand that, but yet the 15-year-old body acted appropriately for the 15-year-old, and now I'm in this body right now. So as I start to understand that, if I fully understand I am eternal, I'm going to have other roles, just like an actor, like I have other roles, it allows them to fully get into the moment of the role they're in and fully invest. If someone said, this is the last role you're ever going to play and you're never going to play another role, all of a sudden you're going to fumble. Because if I mess this up, I'm messed up for eternity. Well, you just said there isn't eternity because this is the last thing. But what happens there is. But it doesn't. Just play the role as if you have thousands of other roles and you won't mess this up because it's kind of a paradox. You're taking they have to get somewhere right now out of the equation. And the paradox is you fully develop and you actually take it to a higher level because you have this sense of, it doesn't matter.
I like that you say that because that's important for us to realize that we are constantly running around as if we are supposed to be somewhere,
Yeah.
supposed to be doing something, and it's like, guys, take a step back.
Yeah.
Look at the galaxy, look at the world that we're in, the role that we play.
Yeah.
We need to take a deep breath and realize, wow,
This is a movie set.
yeah, truly an illusion.
Yeah, it is an illusion. So people are like, oh, we live in an illusion. I'm like, well, the outside world is an illusion. What is real? The reality is how you feel about the illusion. That's the reality in which we live. So my feeling, how I feel about it, the energy that permeates within my body out into the universe. That's the real. So you think about, let's play with words here. A movie projector. You got the light, and then you got the real. But the screen in which we watch and observe the movie on isn't the real that holds the movie. It's just a reflection. So what is the real? The real is the imagination that runs through us. And who we empirically are is the light that's pushing through the film as it comes through the negative. And then the screen itself is just the experience we can actually witness it on. But if I want to change the outcome, or I want to change a scene, I don't rip down the screen. I take the reel out and I snip and clip and calibrate it onto the reel, and then push it through the projector, and then the light pushes on.
And so exactly what Frank is saying, and I love this. So would you agree that that light that you're describing, would you call that kind of the awareness?
Light is the exposure of the awareness.
Okay.
Light would be the essence of what God is.
Okay.
The film would be then the awareness, or the light pushing through the awareness, the observation, because you're coming through. So
Because I was going to say with the real and what you're perceiving at that point would be, that would be our perception, correct?
correct, yes.
Yeah, because what's coming through that real, is up to
Is
us
how we
ultimately.
perceive that the light actually is the thing projecting it out. Yeah, so you
Yeah.
can say, yeah,
Awesome.
yeah. And once you understand that, then drop it all. Like, don't overthink this.
No.
People are, yeah, because you go crazy. Like, if an actor overthinks their role, they're just gonna lose their mind. Just act.
These are just things that, it's always great to talk about when people are throwing around ideas, in the head. It's,
Yeah.
hey, okay, let's really think about if I can understand when a thought comes in, wow, that was heated. Well, then obviously I'm not that heated thought. So then you are the witness, or if you will, or the seeker of
Yeah.
that thought.
Even though you may act out the heated thought,
Mhm.
it's not really who you are. So
Absolutely.
yeah, and if you look, and that's what we bring. So if you have the heated thought, and you actually acted out this heated thought, and then you evaluate. You go back to the director aspect. You listen to your director, and you evaluate. Okay, is that moving me in a preferential direction? Do I like that? Or did that show me another thing I need to learn about myself? So whenever you act and don't feel good, don't necessarily negate the fact that, oh, it shouldn't have happened. But no, it could be a learning tool as well. Or it could simply be, that doesn't serve me anymore. It's a habit. You can look at it either way, but whenever you look at it, be kind to yourself. So a lot of times when you act out a heated thing, you're like, oh, I learned something about myself. Or, you know what, I'm done with this character. It's time to place a different, because even in an individual, a single movie, the main character develops throughout the movie. If they don't, it's like, why watch it? So even they have to change their perspective in order to tell the story. They start here, they get to here, and then they get to here, and then dun-da-da. And their perspective shifts, and why we watch movies is because the fractal of the universe is sequenced into the movies. The story starts here, it develops, it twists, it turns, it draws emotions, and then it finalizes. But even though that movie finalized, there's other infinite movies to come out for you to sit in the theater again and watch. And that's the fractal aspect of eternity.
Life everlasting.
Yeah, like you go to a movie and you get watch the main feature, and all of a sudden they'll show you like, now they're like showing you 10 previews. It's like longer, like Jesus. Like, you know, it's like, oh, the movie starts at 7. Like, by 7:45 you watch the movie, I'm like falling asleep now, I'm with popcorn in my hand. But the cool thing is I know that the movie feature I'm gonna watch isn't the last movie, so it literally allows me to enjoy it fully. And when I learned to do that, it's because I know there are other movies to come. And that's the paradox. I know this, I'm eternal. But I'm not looking to get to the other movie. I'm here with my bucket of popcorn, and I'm waiting for the main feature. I just wish they would have shown so many previews. It's funny, because we are at a point where like, oh, well, what do you think it's like in the 5th dimension, or the 6th dimension, the 7th dimension, looking outside the physical realms in which we're in. And I'm like, I'm sure it's gonna be good, but it's asking me like, how are you think you're gonna feel on Saturday night when you go to bed and sleep? I'm like, it's Monday. Like, let me worry about tonight, you know? Saturday will come, but it's Monday, all right? I'm not worried, but I'm just gonna focus on this present moment now. And this is where we get lost. We're like, what's it gonna be like? I'm like, what's it like now? And if you stay, what's it like now? All these now moments, what changes? Is it time? No, it's perspective. Perspective actually is the measurement of time, right?
That's why time is malleable, truly.
Yeah, it's like, does it really exist? Someone actually invented time, or timepiece, and created the calculation based on a pendulum. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. So you're looking at where'd that come from? The gravitational pull. So what is time? And again, we play with time. I'm not saying ignore time. It's part of this 3-dimensional world. Just like football has 2 end zones, a 50-yard line, but we made those up. But yet, in order to fulfill the game of football, you have to abide by those rules. So it's not about getting rid of time. I'm going to get rid of time.
Gravity,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the thing. People are, oh, well, then this one. It's like, come on.
There's agreements that we came here, and time is one of them. But the cool thing about time,
oxygen.
Yeah, the thing about time is, and even oxygen. Think about this. The thing about time is, we can actually make that malleable. You know, like remember as kids, you know, the day lasted all day until the moment in which you heard your mom, and it ended like that, and you realized you were gone since 9 o'clock in the morning, and now it's dinner time. It literally felt like 5 minutes to the child, but they were lost in it. And to the person who went 8 hours but felt like they spent an hour, that's how they would. But there's always someone measuring time outside of us to bring us back into this physical world. It's like the news, right? Your life is going good, you turn the news on, it's like, holy shit! Freaking, oh God, holy shit! What's going on out there? It's like, turn it off, it's nutty. Because that's their perspective on it, and they want to draw you in. And again, I'm not here to get rid of the news, because it's a teaching tool. It's a great tool. If you could sit and watch the news and not get affected, you've learned something.
Well, that's the thing. We need to take every experience we encounter as you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
If it's drawing an emotion of angst or anger,
Yeah.
it's all right. Why? What do I need to learn from this?
Yeah.
Look at it like that and watch what happens, rather than getting upset or angry about it. There's no need to ever become upset. And that's really what we're talking about.
We become upset because we don't understand what's going on. So, again, so people that maybe are watching and are getting upset, you're not doing anything wrong at all. Just like a veteran actor talking to a new actor coming in. But you gotta also understand, the veteran actor once was a new actor. And how did they get there? Because he's the veteran actor. And I'm not implying that me and Mike are the veteran actors here. We actually, every human being has the veteran and the newbie within them. All right, we're just concepts. So I would never say that I'm the veteran actor, so listen to me and contemplate that. But But really, when you start to look at it, you actually, sometimes turning the news off is the appropriate thing to do, or listen to it when you get upset, then go in like, why am I getting upset? And then you start asking the question. I can't give you the answer now because I can only ask myself that question. Mike can only ask himself that question. But ask yourself, why am I getting upset? And then when you ask yourself why, an answer will resonate in your head. And then go from there. Then go why? Why am I getting upset? Because you're holding on to something. You then say, well, why am I holding on to something? Because when you were a young child, you did this. Why did I do this when I was a young child? And keep getting why, and you get deeper. You actually start peeling back the onion. And then there will be a point where you have no reason to why I'm doing it. And then when you back out to the point, why am I getting upset at the news? It's not that upsetting anymore. Because you kept going, why? Excuse after excuse. And then all of a sudden you get to the point where you're tired of coming up with an excuse. In the end, you're like, I don't know. Oh, that's a beautiful start. If you don't know, you're no longer making up an excuse. So now you say, okay, when you see that, do I have to respond that way? And the empirical truth is no. But even if you do respond in a way that you think you ought not to, it's just, again, it's teaching you. It's all it's doing. It's not I messed up, I did something wrong. A lot of people that are on these spiritual journeys, I got upset today because someone gave me a finger. I must go and meditate more. Well, no, just give them the finger back. I'm like, we're getting a little nutty with this. We really are, because people get nutty. I'm like, you really want to fully dive into life.
That's the experience.
Yeah, stop dabbling in spirituality. It's nutty to me. Dive in, because every human being is spiritual. People say, this is what spiritual looks like. I got a white robe and a long beard, or I got the thing around my neck. Like, no, that's a perception or a concept of it. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying it at all. But spirituality doesn't look like anything. It feels like something. And anger is part of it. Sadness is part of it. Joy is part of it. To think you're not spiritual is the crux of the joke. It's like, no, we're all spiritual beings. When you get to the understanding of witnessing it, just like when you're on a movie set, you realize there's an antagonist and all these different type of characters. You realize they're necessary to fulfill the story in which we're trying to tell. If you remove one, you have a very bland story. It becomes black and white, and we know within the field of light you can't see because you're blinded. In the field of darkness, you're banging into the walls. It's the perfect amount of light and contrast that make everything appear. And throughout the day, as the contrast changes, because during the day you can see the sun and the shadowing from the trees, but at night you can't see any of that, but you can see the stars that circle around us and come at us. You can see the moon. This the formation of consciousness. And what's contrast? Perspective. And it shifts constantly. So the only thing is constant is change. And what's perspective is change. So allow it. Don't fight it.
One thing, why on that note, I know that as I experienced my self becoming aware of these different things, I was searching for a constant. And like you were saying, there is no constant.
Other than change.
Well, other than change, absolutely.
It's the only constant, yeah.
And then that's where that higher self sense of awareness comes in. Because what we're looking for is who we are, right? That's who we're all looking for. And we keep trying to find a person, and you're not going to find a person. It's an awareness. And that awareness, again, is going to the crux of what we're talking about, where it is the only thing that will not change about what's going on. That's what consciousness is. And so if you're going to find peace, it's in that knowing. It's knowing that you will have that awareness and you will have that consciousness. and our job is to simply witness and experience what's going on around us, whatever it is, in a positive, shouldn't say positive, excuse me, in a preferential or non-preferential fashion, however you want to view it. Essentially what we're trying to say is anything can be good or bad, quote unquote. It's all how you look at it. And so ultimately when we go through these life experiences and we, family, friends, personal, business, whatever, ups and downs, we need to be constant knowing that we are just the awareness. We're never the super high, everything's great, and we're never the super low. That is all part of the experience.
Just the experience, yeah.
And we remain conscious, and that is going to be where you find peace.
Yeah, and I believe our journey on this planet is to get there. How we get there, when we get there.
But you know what I mean? I feel
no,
like
that's
we're all
what I'm
just
saying. Like people like,
for
I could get you there quicker. It's like, I'm like,
you're already there. That's
you're
what
already there. It's about
you always have
waking
that.
to the idea, and so there isn't a quicker or faster or better way. There's only the way in which you choose to experience it.
See, we're all seeking this sort of validation through others, that have, is this truth? Is this not? When in all reality, we can only find that truth within.
Because what is truth?
Well,
it's experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But with that said, we have this programming, and it's through school, through our parents, their projections on us growing up, etc. We learn that this is bad, this is good. Look for the answer, find the answer. You can't be wrong. No mistakes is good.
Yeah.
Things like of that nature, and so that sets us back, and that's why we're unsure, and we have this uneasy feeling where we need to seek validation. You don't need to seek validation. You'll know if it's right simply by the way it feels, and that's how I judge it.
No, that's cool. So off that point, so look at all the things, everything from school to the government to your parents, and look at it as they were testing you to see if you would buy into it. Because they're like, I was listening to somebody, I never really studied Buddhism that much. I know a little bit about it, but not to the point where I can widely speak about it. But I was listening to someone talk about it, and the Buddhists, a lot of times they're trying to get to a place where there is no desire. But I heard someone talk about this, and I never heard it from this perspective, and I actually laughed because I'm like, man, it sounds like that'd be true. Well, the Buddhist master would go to the pupil and say, go forth and have no desire. Pupil goes off, a month later returns, shows up, slightly frustrated, and the master says, so what have you discovered? And the pupil said, I finally got to the point where I had no desire. And then I realized that unto itself was a desire. And the master chuckles and says, now go live your life. Because the point of life isn't to get to a place with no desire. It's not to let the desire overcome you. Because if you're trying to have no desire, that is a desire unto itself. It's this game we're playing, and once you realize, oh my God, why couldn't you have told me this sooner? Because you would have never knew what I was talking about. If I gave you the answer to the test, you wouldn't have learned anything off the test. So when I look at my parents or the school or the government, they aren't evil. They're my greatest teachers. And when I woke up, like, you got me. Like when, nice try, you got me.
I love it.
Yeah, it was like that scene. You ever see Dumb and Dumber, the second one? You ever see that one?
Yes, of course.
The beginning was amazing, like where Jim Carrey's sitting in a wheelchair at the mental institution, and Harry shows up with a bag of chocolates, and he starts talking to him. It's like, Floyd, I gotta move on with my life, and I don't know exactly what he said. I can't do this anymore. And all of a sudden, Jim Carrey's got, what is it? What are you saying? Got ya! And he goes, what? 20 years? And he realized that he was playing him the whole time, and then they started laughing.
The awakening.
Yeah.
The awakening
Yeah.
process.
It was, and that was the best part of the movie, by the way, because I don't think it went further, because I'm like,
Hey, the
you can't.
original is classic.
The original's classic, but you couldn't top that scene because the man went 20 years. And it was funny when they're walking, he goes, why didn't you do it in 10? He goes, I could have, but it wouldn't have been as good. So that awakening of like, oh my God. But the thing is, the cool thing is his friend wasn't mad because he was excited he got his friend back. So when you actually discover that all the stuff that you told you should be doing, you realize I shouldn't, don't get angry, get excited. It's like the chest you were sitting on had all the money and things you needed on. So get excited. They're like, I wish I knew about this earlier. I'm like, no, you wouldn't appreciate it earlier. Just learn to like laugh at your awakening. Like, holy, because like something inside knew that this was like,
There's more to this.
yeah, it's like the Truman Show bringing Jim Carrey back into it. At the end, he was like when he realized, he always knew something was weird.
Wow, when I change the way I look at life and the way I feel, the entire world changes around me. And
Yeah.
it's no joke.
It is a joke.
The biggest joke.
Well, that's how I look at life as a joke.
We
though.
grow up and we're like trained to see everything as being separate.
Yeah.
And that we are trying to define ourselves
Yeah.
as a specific person. And that is why we cling to this ego so heavily, and we carry these stories about why we turned out the way we turned out,
Yeah,
and why we make this much money, and why we went to this school, and why we married this man or woman. And
Yeah.
it's just, we are the biggest storytellers ever.
yeah.
And it's because, and what we're talking about is waking up to the fact that these are all stories.
Yeah.
And we're choosing to play these roles out day in, day out.
Yeah, and the secret is how I put it is understanding that. But continue telling the stories. Continue like again, like
Oh, you
the
can't.
great actor realizes they're acting, but that doesn't mean they stop acting. Oh, I'm just acting.
No, it just takes.
They're not taking it frivolous. They actually dive into it even deeper. I could go deeper into something, know I have a life support to pull me out. That's why I can go deep. But a lot of people don't fully go into it because they think, oh my God, I want to stay at the surface of life. I'm like, no, go deep.
I feel like it's more being nervous about the unknown, because what we're talking about is jumping into the unknown.
All right.
And it's awesome for us. I like where you're going with it, because trust is the way we're going to find this. And this is why people who are often religious will find themselves in this state of grace, etc. Is they're fully trusting and turning it over to their God,
Yeah.
etc. And what we're talking about is trusting in the fact that you will have a food source coming in, you will have a monetary source to support you and your family. You will have abundance in life as long as you're able to create it within.
Well, in other words, if you
go with it.
believe you're not going to be fed,
You will not be
all
fed.
beliefs are valid, so you'll get experiences where you won't be fed. So understanding, now we get into the laws of understanding what beliefs and outputs are. So the thing is, once you understand that, you would only choose a preferential experience.
And that's the thing.
So
When
if you
people
don't want
say-
to eat, you're choosing not to eat.
If
Not
people
that,
knew
oh my God.
how powerful their thoughts were, they would be very careful what they thought. And it's true.
But even though, the cool thing about even having a negative thought,
Oh, you're going to be just fine.
things don't happen instantly.
No,
Thank God there is a
that's the
gestation
point.
period. Yeah, can you imagine?
Exactly.
Imagine a woman says, I'm pregnant, and the baby comes popping out. Like, shit, the room's not even made. Oh my God, the crib, what's going on? Now the kid's 20, oh my
12
God.
minutes later.
Yeah. Oh, don't worry, the kid's off to college. You're just getting the cradle, like, ready.
That's
Yeah, so there is a gestation period for us to actually have the experience, like we mentioned in the last transmission we talked about.
That's us creating.
Yeah, because what is the manifestation? The manifestation is the idea of the process, not the process itself. The process is just the perpetuation of it. But the idea is the true, actually guts of the manifestation. And it creates the energy field for me to fulfill it. This is where physical action into the world comes about. It's the projection.
One thing I do want to touch on that is on the awareness note and presence in us when we're discussing all this. When you're remaining in the moment and present, it is not when you have a thought going on. So a big thing that I'd like for us to kind of touch on is just how when we have the thought and those thought patterns, for us to truly kind of catch and hold on to that and recognize it, and know that we have an opportunity to stop that pattern and change the pattern with a different thought, or a different perspective at any moment.
Well, when you're truly present, you're not, your thoughts are going to come, or more impulse will come in. So it's when you're not fully present, these thought patterns are coming in. So when you're actually fully present and listening to your director, you just simply listen. It's like you're watching a movie. Most people watch a program or a movie, they're not thinking about anything else other than the movie. You know, they might think, oh, I have to go to the bathroom, and they get up and pause. But they're fully enveloped. So when you actually listen and stay quiet and listen to your higher self will tell you what to think, how to respond. Don't go down that alley. You know,
Give you something to actually move toward.
Yeah, exactly.
The right.
But once we get distracted and we're focused here and here and here and here, you're at the crossroads. Should I go left? Should I go right? What should I do? And I'm like, it doesn't matter which you go left or right. It's when you fully develop yourself right and don't worry about left, is the experience you're going to have is one of flow and one of movement. But people think, like, oh, I made a right-hand turn, and because they're focused on left, they hit the tree, and they're like, oh, I knew I should have made a left. I'm like, no, you should have looked straight ahead. You looking back over your shoulder at the left in which you thought you should have made is what made you crash into the tree. But if you were focused, and once you make the choice, go for it. You'll know when to veer again, you'll know when to turn again, but too often we question. And why are we questioning? We don't know. We're moving into the unknown. People are like, oh, I want change, and this is how I want change. Like, that's not change. That's reiteration. It's just, you know, it's like putting lipstick on a pig. It's still a pig. But if you want something new, you have to step into the unknown. Like we're talking, and we're always continuously stepping into the unknown. But we have such memories of the past, and the unknown should look like, what's going on? This should not be happening. I'm like, we've never been here to know what should be happening or not. But we have the ability to respond, put a perspective on it that will actually help me navigate through this turbulence, if you want to call it that. And if I listen, I can get through it. Doesn't matter where I'm on the planet, my navigation system will get me there. But if I have it turned off, I seemingly am lost. But it's, even if I have the navigation system turned off to the volume, it's still working. The satellite's still there. It's still pinning where I'm at. Your higher self is that satellite. We are the component that can listen or not, because we can turn the knob off. So as we start to know this, stay in the moment. You'll know what to say. You know, like this conversation you and I having. We've never discussed this before in this way. We never did. If we did, we would only have one of these. We didn't write it down and say, Mike, I have a great idea, I've been writing all night. No.
Check this out.
No, I didn't. No. Just did it. And that's the beauty of it. All right? And then, you know, I might go back and observe it and like, wow, I was full of shit.
Well, that's the fun part. It's, again, every time you listen to this, you'll hear it in a different way.
Yeah.
Because you're in a different circumstance at every other time. The only constant you're going to find is recognize that you are not the experience, you are the one who is experiencing it.
Yep. You are the observer and the experience at the same time. Because
Absolutely.
The body we are is having experience. How I feel about it is the experience.
And that's very important. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because we are mind, body, experience, all of that.
And if you learn to enjoy the rain as much as the sun, some people think that's cheating, but I'm like,
Duality, yin, yang.
well, like, yeah, but people are like, oh, I like the sun better than the rain. I'm like, well, if you live in Arizona, I'm like, you got a ways up, but why are you choosing to like the sun better than the rain? It becomes limiting. And it's not wrong then. I'm not saying, by all means.
No, you're saying you prefer.
Yeah, you prefer it. But what happens is after a while of a preference, it's going to move you into something else that was considered at one point to be a non-preference. Again, the duality of it in order to enjoy it. This is why you say I prefer the sun over the rain, but once you get into it, I can't stand the rain, you're really going to have more of a difficult time navigating because you're closing off all these other roads that can possibly get you to where you have these other experiences that you actually came here to have. So as we loosen up, again, don't like this, to I prefer this, or I don't prefer this.
And that's also a big point about ultimately what we're learning to realize is we follow, like you're saying, the path of least resistance. That's the way to allow ourselves to flow. So during the day, if you feel yourself restricting, or you feel a tension, or you feel a stress, it's time to take a break and to step back and recognize and become aware.
Yeah.
I'm not that situation, I'm experiencing it, and I'm going to change my perspective in order to not be stressed.
Yeah, and that's the thing, there's different levels. I'm going to put these levels in 3 boxes. And again, there's multitudes of levels within the physical realm in which we're living. All right, so you got good and bad, preference and non-preference. And then you have no preference at all. It's all good.
It all is.
So you don't even have a preference. You just accept what comes. And at that level, when you get there, you're not a doormat. You're not just be like, oh, well, just take whatever I can like the peasant on the street. No. Whenever you show up there, it is exactly how it's supposed to be, and the acceptance is a higher place than even a preference at the place below that. Just like preference is a higher place than the good versus the bad, right? Because good and bad, preference, not preference. It's a little bit lighter, right? But then there's a place of no preference even needed, whether nor good or bad. Again, these are places I fall into and fall out of. I go from no preference to preference, not preference to holy shit, this is good and bad. So I teeter within those realms, right?
But that's the ebb and flow of the human experience.
It is. So I'm not out of a state. I'm subject to all of it. But when it happens, when I'm like, I get into a place like, oh, I don't, this is bad. All of a sudden, I don't be like, oh, I should be further along than this. I'm like, no. If I feel something's bad, I'm learning something. And okay, and like, okay, I like that. Well, now I'm back into the preferential and not preferential. But I don't know what the ultimate goal is other than moving into the unknown without fear. If you move into the unknown without fear, it's seemingly tragic. When you move into the unknown with excitement, it's glorious. Just like a child running out their front door, on a Saturday morning and heading to the park. They have no expectation. They just do it. They're led by this energy field that they were maturing while they were sleeping. But can you imagine a kid, because this happens later on. It's like, okay, before they leave their house, they have to write a schematic of what's going to happen for the day. They have a list. Can you imagine that 6-year-old? Okay, first we're going to go climb a tree. Then we're going to go to the park and get on the swing. Can you imagine that? People would look at that as insane, but what the hell are we doing? Like, right? First I have a meeting at 5 in the morning, and then I have to go and do something. Then we have lunch. A kid's like, hey, we got to stop for lunch. No, you're hungry, you find yourself at the deli, right? And if you don't have money, you find some way to get money, and someone gives you, go up there and what can I get for 25 cents? You get a Snickers bar. Good. All right.
Okay.
So your mom's like, you got a Snickers. Like, well, it's the only thing I can afford. A Snickers bar.
All right. I love how you said this because we always talk about, live childlike.
Yeah.
And so when you're describing that feeling, a good other way that we like to, or I love to describe it as, is being able to see ourselves without thought. Because if you bring yourself back to that childlike state, it was no planning, it was no this at this time. That is that thought, that the thoughts that you are able to let go of.
Yeah, with the impulses, that's all it was.
Exactly. So you allow those to go by, and that is a childlike state. So that's what we mean when we say childlike.
And think about this. Energy in which we are, which is reality, is formed in a circular, spheric way. So energy, chakra means wheel, right? Wheel of energy. And so we live in a field of wheels of energy. So think about it. So when we look at this story, we were meant to start off childlike and then head out into the wilderness of planning, prepping, goal making, stressing. Thank God Saturday's here. Oh my God, kids are getting older. I'm getting older. And then boom, I'm back to childlike. We come full circle. In this period, we realize when you become childlike, you become more responsible as a human being than you would by holding a press conference or having bullet points.
Living in the arbitrary man-made world.
Yeah, and it's like, I need a PowerPoint presentation. Like, I hope this person, they'll probably hear it, but I'm supposed to do a talk at a high school for the parents, and because the times we're in, I gotta do it on Zoom. So this woman's like, she sends me this long email about all this stuff. She's like, I need a PowerPoint presentation. I'm like, I don't do PowerPoint presentations. But I didn't say that. So I'll come up with a PowerPoint presentation to appease and satisfy her. But I'm like, this is like, I'm talking about mindfulness, and there's nothing PowerPoint presentation within the field of mindfulness. It's not a formulation. It's the opposite of formulation. Formulation is invented out of that place. But nonetheless, I found some PowerPoint. I'm like, Karen, how do you do a PowerPoint presentation? So I'm like, no, I just start talking and this nonsense comes out of my head. I'm like, but
oh yeah, you won't be able to follow that. Yeah. I mean, I guess you could put it like.
No, I'll do it. I'll just lay it out there. I don't even know what format she wants it, but I find it funny. But yet, I'm not gonna be like, I don't do PowerPoint presentation. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna learn now, and it's the childlike state in me. I'll just do that. But I don't think it's necessary. I feel like, are you prepared? I'm like, yeah. Well, how do you prepare yourself? I'm like, well, I drink water and I breathe. I joke around. I'm like,
I'm at peace.
I find because I could be so lost in my head, just like any lunatic that we look at as a lunatic. But there are certain points now when I go to do something, I get into the present moment. I can easily get in there. But like having these talks, like I could have been yelling at my neighbor, right? And all of a sudden the mic's on and things are going, and I'm like, boom.
Feels good.
Yeah, because my direct attention is focused on, I'm not thinking about what am I going to say tonight. No. I'm having fun with my buddy Mike.
Absolutely.
As we're talking on a mic. That was a bad joke. Sorry, forget I said that.
We'll edit that.
Yeah. But the reason we do this, and we've mentioned this a couple times, is not because we think we're going to teach people. Because we enjoy this.
We're here for the experience.
Yeah, the experience.
Just as much as anybody who would be listening.
Yeah. It's just think about somebody watching a sport or watching a boxing match or any type of sport. They're like, oh, I'm going to go out there and change somebody's life. No, they're having the experience. And then when we actually watch the experience, we actually expand our experience. So we're offering this up by videotape and recording it. So if you choose to want to do it, but we're not here to say we know best. No, we're just having fun. I'm trying to get as childlike and remain childlike as you can, because it's the full circle of life. You start as a child and you want to get back to that state of child. Now you don't have to wait till you're old. You can You can learn, as a child, they learn never to be non-childlike, you know? And years ago, I was in a bookstore, when bookstores existed.
Bookstores, yeah, those didn't go. When did those stop?
Yeah, it was like a library that you had to pay for.
2011?
Yeah, I just remember, like, I would go, and I know how they didn't make money. I used to go to Barnes and Noble and sit there and like the atmosphere, and I would read a book. I'm like, I already read it. You know, it's like, it's not a library. So I felt bad, but anyway, I was walking by. it's like, you gonna buy that book? Nah, I just read it.
I agree.
Yeah, just, yeah,
Thank you, though.
yeah. But I was walking by this table and it had a book on there. It was a small book. It says, "How to Teach Your Child to Be Creative," and I laughed. Like, I didn't open it up.
I remember this.
Yeah, I didn't open it up, but if I did, I would have prayed. It says, "Leave him alone. Stop." But I'm assuming, because the book was more than a page thick, it was probably first what you want to do is drive them insane. Stick crayons in their fingers and Play-Doh up their nose. It was like, do you realize children are already creative? We're gonna teach them, but yet,
You can sell anything.
yeah, I'm like, but you're like, is that creative? I don't know. It's funny. To me, it's humorous. But I also get what they're saying, because maybe it is talking. And again, I didn't read the book, so I'm only speculating. But I hope that the author said, when they come home from school, tell them it was a joke. And not in a way of dishonoring it. It's just that, again, it was a perspective on how the teacher was teaching. Again, this is all part of the act, it's part of the scene. Don't denigrate anything, don't knock anything, because it's part of it. Because even the extra in the movie adds to the movie. They really do. If you took the extras out of the movie, you'd be like, well, that's very bland. Right? If salt and pepper were the main spices in it, but you took the paprika out, it's gonna taste different. You know, it's gonna like, oh, something's missing here. So, school is a season. Your parents are a season. Your boss is a season. You don't want to eliminate them. You want to be like a fine palate. You want to recognize it. But yet, salt might be the bearing point in the meal. But because that's bearing, to find the parsley, you're gonna really have to dig deep. Yeah, that's what it's about. It's about the layers and the textures. People want to like, you ought to speak at school to change the system. Like, why the hell would I do that? Look what the system did for me. You know, it made me feel like I was not smart. To find out that, you know, yeah, maybe they were right. Who knows? I don't know. You know?
What is smart? That's
Yeah.
the thing.
Again, it's perspective. Again, based on how the academics, transcripts and all the thing goes, you know, to some level, when I was read my thing, they looked at me like, well, you know, it's like, you know, I wish you luck.
It's just so important that people recognize that smart. There's wisdom and knowledge, and then there's facts.
Yeah,
You know?
but I also don't want to get out of too far out, because who says the wisdom is the wisdom in which we need, but the wise man that claims to be the wise man. But
That's absolutely
am I really a wise man? I don't know. Who am I to say? You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Again,
It depends what world
you ask me, I think I'm wise.
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah, and my dad would say, you're just a wise ass, you know? Another bad joke tonight, oh my God. But I don't know enough to know if I'm wise or not. But I'm recognizing things that hinder me or blinded me, the veil is being lifted. How much more the veil needs to be lifted to really I can proclaim I'm an ultra wise man? I don't know. But what I know is this veil's been lifted, that veil's been lifted, and in this moment, I am A-okay with that. I don't need to be further down the road. I don't even know what further down the road looks like. Is it better? No, because this road is endless. So I want to enjoy this morsel, this real estate of road right now. But because change is constant, I'm never going to stay on this. But the way stillness is experienced, because nothing is still. But how do you experience stillness? Is when you actually come into speed to your own frequency and thoughts at the same time. Another way of saying this is, if I was on the freeway doing 100 miles an hour, and I looked to my right, and there was a car beside me doing 100 miles an hour, relatively was still. But to the hitchhiker, we're doing 100 miles an hour. Nothing is still, in a sense. But when I become up to speed with something, I can experience stillness. Because if I'm doing 100 miles an hour with the other car and I look both, we look still relative to each other. And that is the stillness that we talk about. When you become one with the river, you're no longer moving in relative terms of the river. So we came here with a frequency setting that has a speed or a flow to it. When we become one with that, we become still. But once you stick your head out the window of the car doing 100 miles an hour, you realize, damn, I'm not still. It starts blowing. But that's okay.
And that's that ebb and flow of daily life.
Yeah, it is. But stillness is a place I'm seeking, or I shouldn't say I'm even seeking it. I find myself in it. But then I find myself out of it. But when I'm out of it,
The hide and seek.
yeah, the hide and seek. Because when I'm in it, if I was never out of it, would I even understand?
The contrast,
No,
etc.
I wouldn't. So I accept both stillness, and I also accept chaos. But at some level, there's something in me that never moves, that is still to the chaos and even the stillness in which I call stillness. Because what doesn't move in the projector? The light, which is the awareness, that exposes the awareness. It never moves. Everything else does. The film.
And that's where you find peace,
Yeah.
really.
You can find peace in chaos, and you can find peace in what we call stillness.
But I just love knowing, that at any point, what's playing out in front of me ultimately is an experience, and how I choose to have and receive this experience is going to be ultimately up to me. But I can rest knowing that I am the one watching, feeling, tasting, whatever, not the costume version or the 3D version.
That's not who you ultimately are.
Mm-hmm.
But in order to have the experience, you must put the costume on.
Oh, absolutely. How am I going to taste if I'm not
Yeah,
the
if you're on
body?
the five senses.
And that's the thing.
Yeah.
I know I'm not the body, I know I'm not the mind, but what I mean is you experience the
Through
body. Exactly.
Yeah. And that's why we came here. So we're not here to deny the physical world. People are like, I'm not a materialist. I'm like, yeah, you are. You're flesh and bone.
The reason we're
But don't
here
get lost in the material world. Is kind of more of the way I look at it. I don't get lost in it, but I utilize it. You know, it's not the end of me, because the thing about the physical world, it's always fleeting. But the light in me is never fleeting. It never will flee.
Well, once you understand that you're fully the one in control, ultimately, of abundance or
Perspective of abundance,
Lack.
perspective of lack, yeah.
you know, when you actively understand you're a participant in both of those,
Yeah.
drama, comedy, or tragedy, comedy, whatever you want to call them,
Yeah.
that's when you understand, okay, I need to, do I want to continue playing this role?
Yeah.
Now that
That's
I see
it.
this.
And then have fun with it. Get back to childlike state.
Yeah.
Because children don't question, they just respond.
And that's ultimately what we're shooting for.
That's it. And
That
that's,
is true presence.
Yep, and that's why we're here at Perspective Shift. All right.
Thank you for joining
Thanks
us.
for tuning in tonight. All right,
Appreciate
great tune, Mike.
Night, Frank.
Bye.
Nicely done.
Yeah.
I love the yin yang.
Yeah.
You see that?
Oh yeah.
On the screen. That was